The afternoon sun was as hot as the red dust of the schoolyard as the final bell rang and students poured outside in groups, laughing and gossiping. In the middle of the field, a small commotion began. There he was, Ebuka, skinny, quiet, 11 years old. His school uniform hung loose on his bony frame, and the soles of his sandals flapped with every step. A group of boys circled him, taunting like hyenas. See as e shoe be. Na frog dey wear that one. Maybe he dey beg for road after school. Oya dance for us, make we dash you money. They shoved him, one after the other, laughing. His notebook hit the ground, dust clung to his knees. Ebuka didn't speak. He just picked up his book, slowly, carefully, trying not to cry, and then a voice sliced through the mockery like a blade. Touch him again, and I'll fight you myself. Amara, 13. Fierce eyes, bright brown skin glowing with sweat. Her uniform wasn't new, but she wore it like a queen. She marched right into the circle and stood in front of Ebuka, arms spread wide like a lioness. The boys paused, shocked. What is wrong with you people? You think bullying makes you strong? She pointed at the tallest of them. Your father sells tires in the market. You wear secondhand jeans every day. Should we laugh at you too? Silence. Then one by one, the bullies backed away, mumbling insults they didn't mean. The dust settled. Ebuka stood still, breath shallow, eyes wide. Amara turned to him, crouched, and dusted off his notebook. Then she did something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. She reached into her school bag and pulled out a small paper wrap of jollof rice and fried plantain. Here, half is yours. I already ate from it, so don't argue. He hesitated. Take it, she said softly. You're not alone. Ebuka took it with trembling hands. Their fingers brushed. His heart beat louder than the school bell, and as she smiled and walked away, sunlight haloing her figure, Ebuka stared after her, eyes burning her image into his memory. The girl who didn't just stop the bullies, she saw him, protected him, fed him. In that moment, she became his entire universe. Years later, the hospital hallway buzzed with chaos. Nurses rushed past, phones rang endlessly, patients moaned on creaking beds, but inside Ward 3B, Amara stood still, shoulders heavy, eyes tired. The same fierce girl from the playground, now 33, worn thin by life. She adjusted the IV drip for an old woman, then wiped her brow. Sweat clung to her skin beneath her scrubs. Her phone buzzed again. So when will you return the $150K I lent you, Amara? Don't embarrass yourself. From Bio, her ex. The one who vanished when her father fell sick, only to reappear now as a creditor. She locked the phone. No time for ghosts. In her locker, a photo of her father, frail and smiling weakly, was pinned beside a payment plan. The bills were piling. Rent, medication, broken dreams. As she reached for her stethoscope, she heard the buzz ripple down the corridor. He's coming today, the billionaire donor. I heard he's funding an entire wing. Some say he's cold, doesn't talk to anyone, just drops money and leaves. Amara rolled her eyes. If he's not helping me pay rent, I don't care. She grabbed her clipboard and headed toward the lobby. Then the doors opened, and in walked a man that made the air itself shift. Tall, powerful, handsomely dressed in a charcoal suit. His presence was like thunder. His eyes scanned the room, calm, commanding, cold. Amara looked once, then looked again. Something in her stomach turned. He began to pass her, just another nurse in scrubs, when he suddenly stopped, turned. Their eyes met. Amara? The clipboard slipped from her hand. That voice, that name, but deeper, stronger, wealthier. She blinked. Once, twice. Her lips parted. Sorry, do I know you? He stepped closer, and then he smiled. Just barely. It's me, Ebuka. The name hit her, the playground, the bullies, the jollof rice, the boy she protected from the world, now returning with the world at his feet. She staggered back slightly, voice barely a whisper. Ebuka? The sun entered through the dusty hospital windows, painting long golden streaks across the linoleum floor. Amara stood by the corridor wall, arms crossed, half defensive, half unsure. Her nurse scrubs looked faded under the light, her hair hastily tied up, but her eyes still sharp, still fire. Ebuka faced her, calm and self-assured. Gone was the skinny boy with torn sandals. Now he was tall, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned with polished confidence, a low-fade haircut, custom suit, gold cufflinks. The quiet power of a man who built his throne with his own hands. But his smile, that smile was still the same. You really don't remember? She shook her head slowly, unsure. He took a step closer, voice low. You gave me half your lunch, every day. You once fought 5 boys who called me gutter rat. He chuckled softly, nostalgia in his gaze. You tied my shoelaces because my fingers were too bruised to move. Amara looked down, flustered. The memories flickered, like half-forgotten dreams suddenly waking up. That was a lifetime ago, she said quietly. We were kids. Ibuka didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at her like she was the sun after a decade of darkness. Not for me. There was a pause, thick with breath and time. She glanced up, eyes meeting his. You disappeared after JS3. I thought you moved to your village. He nodded. I did, with my aunt. She didn't want to pay my school fees. A beat passed. She didn't know what to say. He did. But every time I wanted to give up, I remembered you. Your fire, your kindness, the way you said I mattered, even when I didn't believe it. Her throat tightened. Ibuka smiled again, gentler this time, the kind that reached deep. I swore that if I ever made it, I'd come back and find you. Silence stretched between them, heavy, intimate. For a moment, the world slowed, and in that flicker of stillness, something old and warm and dangerous began to rise. She looked away first, but the echo of his words stayed with her. Not for me. Days later, Amara sat at the edge of her creaky bed, eyes fixed on the worn calendar above her father's medication tray. The landlord's voice still echoed in her head. If you don't pay by Friday, you're out, sick father or not. She pressed her lips together, refusing to cry in front of her sleeping dad. Instead, she walked to the kitchen. The tap was leaking. The bulb flickered. One pack of Indomie left in the cupboard. She leaned against the sink, hands trembling, and then the tears came. Silent, controlled, the kind that slip down when no one is looking. When she went to work the next day, the head nurse approached her with a strange smile. Amara, someone cleared your rent and your father's hospital bills. What? Amara froze. Who? Didn't leave a name, just said it was past gratitude. Amara's stomach dropped. Only one person came to mind. She stormed off. She found Ibuka near the flower bed, speaking with one of the doctors about donations. His back was turned, but the moment she called his name, he stopped. Why would you do that? She demanded, voice tight. He turned, unreadable. Because I can. I didn't ask you to. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, he said softly. It's remembrance. It's gratitude. Her fists clenched. You think money fixes everything? Like that just because you're rich now, I'm some project to rescue? No. His voice was firmer now. I did it because I owe you more than money could ever pay. Silence fell between them. Birds chirped in the background. The breeze carried the scent of antiseptic and hibiscus. You gave me your lunch when you were probably hungry yourself, he said. You fought for me when no one else even looked at me. Let me give back. Just a little. But she couldn't breathe. Too much pride. Too much shame, too much emotion. She stepped back, blinking hard. I didn't help you for payback. I did it because it was right. He looked at her like she was still 13 and still his hero. And that's exactly why I'll never stop trying. But she shook her head and turned, storming off before her resolve could break. He didn't follow. He watched her walk away, the girl who once stood for him. Now, retreating from the man he's become. One day, Amara stepped out after a long shift, exhaustion in every movement. A sleek black car slid to a stop in front of her. The tinted window lowered. A man in a sharp suit leaned out and handed her something. For Nurse Amara, you're formally invited. She blinked at the envelope. Thick, ivory paper, gold trim, her name embossed in cursive. Inside, an exclusive invitation to the Lagos Elite Medical Gala. Guest of honor, Miss Amara Ez. She looked up, stunned. Is this from him? But the driver only smiled. Car will be here at 7. She didn't know what to think. But later that night, she stared at herself in the mirror, wearing her neighbor's borrowed gown. It was 2 sizes too big and pinned at the back. Her shoes were scuffed. Her makeup, simple, but her eyes still held fire. This is stupid, she muttered. I don't belong there. But she went. Later, Amara stood in the crowd, shrinking. Waiters floated by with champagne, the hall shimmered with chandeliers, and then Ibuka stepped onto the stage. Spotlight, applause. He wore a deep blue tux. The billionaire mask was flawless, but his eyes searched the crowd for her. Tonight, he began, I announced something deeply personal, a new wing at this hospital, one dedicated to compassion, strength, loyalty. He paused. The Amara Wellness Wing. Gasps, cameras flashed, all turned to her. I was once a boy with torn shoes and no name. A girl shared her food, her voice, and her courage with me. She saved me. Tonight, I honor her. He extended his hand toward her. I want the world to know what you did for me. The room erupted in applause, but Amara froze. Her heart thundered in her chest. Overwhelmed, confused, raw, she turned and ran. She burst through the doors, gulping the night air. Ibuka didn't chase. He stood on stage, watching her retreat. Not with anger, not with pride, but with a quiet ache in his chest. That night, rain fell in heavy sheets, drenching the streets of Lagos in a moody, restless downpour. Amara clutched her flimsy umbrella as she hurried along the dim road outside the hospital. Water soaked through her shoes. Her borrowed dress clung to her skin. Every step home felt heavier than the last. The road was too quiet. She paused. Something prickled at the back of her neck, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. A figure stepped out from the shadows. Her heart stuttered. "Amara," a voice said, low and sharp. "So it's true." She blinked, startled. It was Bio, her ex-boyfriend. His clothes were drenched, his eyes wild and bloodshot. "You think you can forget me now because of him?" Amara took a cautious step back. "I have no idea what you're saying, but I want nothing from you. Leave me alone." But he didn't. Instead, he lunged forward and grabbed her arm, squeezing it hard enough to make her wince. "I made you," he spat. "You think you're too good for me now, just because some rich man's sniffing around?" Before she could speak, headlights split through the rain. A sleek black car skidded to a halt beside them. The back door opened, and Ibuka stepped out, slow and controlled, but burning with rage. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. But his eyes promised a wrath too great for a man like Bio. "Let her go immediately." Bio dropped her arm like it was acid. "Touch her again," he said, "and I'll bury you. In court, in lawyers, in restraining orders. Try me." Bio's face twisted, but he backed off, muttering something vile as he disappeared into the rain. Ibuka turned to Amara, held an umbrella over her head. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Tears started to fall down her eyes. She felt grateful, but at the same time, she felt broken. I didn't need your help," she whispered softly. "I know." He smiled. "I just hated the thought of another man touching you." "That's so arrogant of you." She glared at him even as she sobbed, tired. He pushed her hair from her face. "I know." Then his face softened. "Come on with me to the car, Amara." She just stared at him, sniffing back her tears. He smiled again. "Please, come with me." Finally, she relented, and slowly, he guided her silently into the backseat of his car. And for the first time, Amara felt safe, protected. Inside, the car was warm, quiet. Only the steady hum of the engine and the gentle thrum of rain on the windows filled the silence. Amara sat stiffly, staring ahead. He passed her a clean towel. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, drying her face. Their fingers brushed when she handed the towel back, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Ibuka looked at her, something raw behind his polished exterior. "I've waited my whole life," he said softly, "to protect you the way you protected me. Please let me do just that." She said nothing, just looked at him, really looked. The shy boy with torn sandals was gone. In his place sat a man who held power in his hands, but wore his heart in his eyes. The next few days passed like a strange dream. Ibuka began appearing at the hospital. He never said much, just brought food for her father, but sometimes left medication she couldn't afford. One evening, she came home to find her leaking roof repaired. Another time, a small box sat on her doorstep, a scarf in her favorite color, and a novel she once mentioned loving in secondary school. Finally, one evening after her shift, she found him waiting by her building. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked, arms crossed. "You've already paid me back." Ibuka hesitated. "Because I like you," he said. A pause, then a deeper breath. "But I don't know how to woo you. I never learned." He looked away, embarrassed by his own honesty. "I was bullied. I didn't have a normal childhood. I didn't go to parties or flirt or date. I worked. I built a life from the ground up. And through it all, there was this image in my head. Your face, your voice, your bravery." He met her eyes again. "I don't know how to love like a normal man, Amara." She softened, something melting behind her ribs. She stepped closer. "That's okay," she said gently. "I already liked you before you had anything." His mouth parted slightly, shocked. "Wait, you liked me?" She just smiled and shook her head with a small laugh. "Good night, Ibuka, and try to keep your money in your pockets next time you try to woo me." She turned and walked toward her apartment, leaving him standing under the streetlight, still soaking in the rain, but glowing from the inside out. Over the next few weeks, Ibuka had become better at this, at wooing her. No longer the awkward billionaire who stumbled through affection, he now teased her playfully during market runs, brought her jollof from her favorite canteen, and sent her photos of funny articles with the caption, "This sounds like you." Amara had tried to hold herself back, but every time he showed up with warm medicine for her father, or waited silently outside her shift just to walk her home, her heart cracked open a little more. And now she was falling. Fast. That night, her father had eaten his full dinner and even joked for the first time in weeks. He'd insisted she go out when Ibuka called. "Don't be foolish, Amara. The man is in love with you," her father said, smirking. She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed red. Ibuka picked her up in his sleek black Maybach, his cologne warm and subtle, like his smile lighting up the night. They drove for half an hour until the roads turned quiet, then curved into a massive estate. Her breath caught. His mansion stood like something out of a dream. Tall white pillars, marble driveways lined with gold-lit fountains, and windows that reflected the moon like crystal. The lawn stretched endlessly, trimmed to perfection, and glowing fairy lights danced across every corner of the garden. Inside, it was even more breathtaking. A sweeping spiral staircase framed the entrance hall. Chandeliers dangled like stars overhead. The floors gleamed like glass. Every room they passed whispered wealth, but not emptiness. There were books, art, photographs, memories. He led her into a quieter room at the back of the house. Soft music played, jazz, slow and nostalgic. The lights were dim, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the moonlight spilled across the polished floor like silver. He walked over to a large wooden chest near the fireplace. "I want to show you something," he said. He opened the chest gently and pulled out a small box, plain, worn, clearly old. Inside were mismatched trinkets, a broken pencil, a cracked plastic ring, a torn comic book page, and at the very bottom, a faded magazine clipping. Her school photo, from JS3. Her hair was braided back in neat rows, her eyes bright, smiling. Amara stared. "You kept this?" Ibuka nodded, his voice soft. "I cut it out from the school magazine the day I saw it. I was too scared to speak to you that week, so I kept this instead." He took a shaky breath. "You gave me courage when I had nothing. Every time I walked into a boardroom, every time someone told me I didn't belong, I thought of you, your voice, your fire." Her hands trembled as she reached for the clipping. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why not forget me and move on?" He touched her hand, firm and gentle. "Because you loved me when I was invisible." The words stopped the air. Their faces were close now, too close. His gaze dropped to her lips. Her breath hitched, their foreheads brushed. And just as their lips were about to meet, her phone rang. The sound was sharp, jarring. She jumped. She picked it up, heart racing. It was her neighbor. "Amara, come quick. Your father..." He collapsed. The sterile white walls of the hospital seemed colder tonight. Amara sat slumped in a plastic chair beside her father's bed, her nurse's uniform rumpled, her hair undone from rushing him in. Her hands were still shaking. Ibuka had driven like a man possessed. No bodyguards, no driver, just him, yelling for a doctor the second they arrived, demanding the best care, signing off on a private VIP suite without blinking. Now her father lay resting beneath crisp white sheets, monitors softly beeping beside him. The IV glowed faintly in the dimmed room. Amara hadn't spoken much. She just held her father's hand, willing his pulse to stay steady. Ibuka stood across the room, silent, watching. His fists clenched, jaw tense, as if he were holding the entire universe inside him. Then, a stir. Her father blinked slowly, then turned his head. "Amara," he rasped. She leaned in quickly, clutching his fingers tighter. "I'm here, Papa. You're okay." His eyes, once cloudy with illness, flickered with focus. Then they drifted toward Ibuka. He squinted for a moment. "You were that boy," he said, voice rough. "The one she protected in school." Ibuka stepped closer, stunned. "Yes, sir," he said gently. "Ibuka." The old man let out a faint, wheezing chuckle. "I remember, the skinny one with the shy smile and those poor torn sandals." Ibuka managed a small laugh. "That was me." Her father looked between them, and then he smiled. A deep, proud, peaceful smile. "You've always had her heart," he said simply. "Don't waste it." Amara froze, breath caught. Ibuka's face changed. The tension melted. The walls he always kept up, brick by painful brick, crumbled in that moment. His eyes shifted to Amara, and in them was a storm of promise. No more games, no more hesitation, Just him, ready, determined, in love. The sky blushed with the soft colors of dawn, pink melting into lavender, chasing away the Lagos night. Amara stepped onto the rooftop, still in her robe, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The cool morning breeze teased her curls. She paused when she saw it, a small velvet box sitting on the weathered table. Curious, she walked over and opened it. Inside, not a ring, but a polished brown stone, smooth and familiar. She gasped. A memory flashed. The dusty schoolyard. That same stone she once handed to a crying Ibuka when he'd been pushed into the dirt. "Keep it," she'd said. "It's lucky." "You kept it?" She turned. Ibuka stood there in a soft white shirt and slacks, his expression gentle, glowing in the morning light. "I kept everything that reminded me of you." He walked toward her slowly, pulling something else from his pocket. This time, a ring. A diamond, elegant, timeless. He took a breath and knelt. No cameras, no headlines, no gala or mansion lights. Just me, Ibuka. The boy you fed half your lunch, the man who made it because you believed in him first. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Will you be my wife, Amara?" She covered her mouth, heart full. "Yes, yes!" He stood, slipped the ring on her finger. They hugged, long, fierce, real. But before their lips could meet, crash! The rooftop door was kicked open, a shout. "So this is the rich boyfriend, Abi?" Bio, Amara's violent ex, his eyes wild, a pistol in his hand. 3 other men behind him, shady, drunk, dangerous. "You think you can order me around because you're rich, huh?" Bio spat. "You took what was mine. Now all of you are going to heaven today." Amara screamed. Ibuka pushed her behind him. "Don't do this, Bio." But it was too late. The first man lunged. A brutal fight broke out. Ibuka fought like a lion. Raw, furious. He took down 1, 2, until a punch knocked him back. A gunshot split the air. Amara screamed. Ibuka dropped to the ground, blood blooming on his shirt. He'd shielded her, everything blurred. Screams. Sirens. Blood. Panic. And Amara's sobs as she knelt beside the man who had once been a broken boy, now bleeding in her arms. The news headlines had screamed for days. Nurse saved billionaire from assassination attempt by her ex. Billionaire Ibuka Okoye shot protecting fiancé. Love like a movie, from torn sandals to wedding sandals. Bio and his gang of criminals, found and arrested for attempted murder, they're looking at least 20 years in prison. But none of that mattered now, because today was hers. The glass garden chapel shimmered like a dream, crystal walls wrapped in jasmine and white roses, with sunlight cascading through every angle. Orchids spilled across marble aisles. A live string quartet played a soft melody as the guests turned in awe. Amara stood at the top of the aisle. She wore a breathtaking ivory gown that flowed like water, her hair in a soft bun wrapped with golden beads. Her veil was sheer, long, and regal, fit for a queen. Because today, that's exactly who she was. Not a nurse begging for rent, not a girl fighting off the world for a shy classmate, but a woman loved, chosen, rewarded. Every guest whispered, starstruck, "That's her, the girl who saved the billionaire. She's the reason he's alive." Ibuka stood at the altar, strong and healed, in a custom black tux with Amara's name embroidered discreetly on the sleeve. A faint scar peeked from his collar, reminder of the bullet he'd taken to save her life. She walked toward him, slow, poised, every step shaking the world. Flashbacks flicker. Him in torn sandals, her offering half her lunch, him whispering, "You're not alone." The gold envelope, the hospital tears, the blood, the ring. Now the altar. They meet. The vows are simple, tear-soaked, and then you may kiss the bride. The crowd rises. Fireworks bloom behind the glass. Later, as they dance under the stars, Amara leans into his chest, glowing. Ibuka whispers in her ear, "You didn't just protect me, Amara. You made me." She closes her eyes, smiling through tears. Loved. At last. The end. Sometimes the kindness you show when no one is watching becomes the seed of your future miracle. Amara didn't protect Ibuka expecting anything in return, but love has a long memory. In a world that forgets easily, compassion is never forgotten. Have you ever done something kind for someone that came back to bless you in a surprising way? Or have you ever wished you could thank someone who stood by you when you were down? Tell us in the comments. Your story could inspire someone else today. If you love this story of revenge, romance, and reward, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.